everybody. Welcome.
This is the Macabre Podcast Universe. I'm cutting you off.
Exist to
Prove people wrong when they say sequels are never better than the originals.
And we are covering our namesake today. We're going back to the pool of Marvel because a long-awaited movie has come out. This past weekend. It's Shang-Chi.
Long-awaited. Was this pushed back?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, when?
Yes, this was pushed back. It was supposed to come out last year.
Original release date? Okay.
I don't remember the exact release date, but of course, with COVID, this movie got pushed back. And as we're going to learn, this has been something that Marvel's been trying to make since the 80s.
Whoa.
So we're going to jump into that a little bit. But first, we've been covering Godfather, and then we're taking a sharp turn, and we're covering an action-packed superhero movie, and then we're going back into Godfather and talking about popes next week. So, we're glad you're here. As you know, when a new movie comes out in a franchise that we cover, we interrupt our regularly scheduled program, and we jump into it. So here we are, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and we're going to keep it spoiler-free, and then there'll be the spoiler alert song, and then we'll go through the plot. Mm-hmm. So, what I was hoping to do, a few months ago, Black Widow came out, and we covered that. What are your thoughts and feelings on Black Widow now that we've come down a little bit? Because we were excited to just go see a Marvel movie in theaters. Do you have any changes of opinions on that movie or anything like that?
I don't really like it. It's not a very good movie. The more I've been away from it, the less I like it. And then watching this movie, it's like, oh my gosh, finally a good, and that's how I almost get that Marvel feeling again of like, finally they did it. And it's like, well, they've been doing it.
Right.
A great job. But this one just was so great in comparison to the last one that was released.
Yeah.
And it is a little hard to compare because they're just very different movies. They're covering very different things. Mm-hmm. But if you're going to put a water dragon in your movie, it's automatically a better movie. I'm just going to say it.
Well, yeah, some of the things I've thought about, I still liked Black Widow, but I do think this was like so much better. It was kind of like a little bit embarrassing. Yeah. Is how it felt to me. Like when I finished this, it was like, ooh, the grand kickoff to Phase 4 is Black Widow. This feels like the real kickoff.
It feels like a regression, like almost. Like with some of the not so great Marvel movies.
And I think we talked in that episode, I feel like where that movie fails is when it decides to be a superhero movie instead of a spy movie.
Yeah.
And all the bombastic stuff in that movie kind of falls flat.
And this movie straight up goes into fantasy hard.
Yeah.
And does not apologize for it.
So one of the things that was exciting about this movie was it
does not have it.
It does not have Pennywise. No, what I thought was exciting before we get into all the details is I don't know, this might be the first true time that I felt like this in Marvel. They have spent, since 2008 creating this world. And this felt like the first genuine payoff to that world. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is these felt like real characters that really existed while all the other things happened. And this is a lot of their decisions and things that came up were lived in that world and didn't feel like things to just make an audience go, look at that. Remember that from that movie? Remember that from that movie? That's in there. But this one felt like the first time they really fully took advantage of, we've created a world with a lot of craziness and consequences, and here's a whole new character. And kind of what makes this movie unique is that it is in the Marvel world because it was so self-contained simultaneously.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I think so.
So that was exciting to me.
Yeah.
And I still like Black Widow, but this felt like, oh, this is Phase 4 beginning.
This is also one where I'm like, I could genuinely see myself choosing to watch this movie again.
This one felt like,
and instead of oh, I'm gonna watch all instead of watching something with a purpose, it's like I don't see myself watching Marvel again until I have kids.
Yeah,
kind of thing. This is like, oh, I could just see myself watching this one again.
totally. This one felt very rewatchable. In a cursory glance, I put this one below the Guardians movies, below the last two Avengers, below Spider-Man Far From Home, and then below Black Panther. But I had it above everything else, just on a cursory.
I think I liked it better than Black Panther.
I think that's fair.
But what's great is they're both very different.
Yeah. It's just tough to beat Killmonger, but I think
I know. But this one also has a great villain too.
yeah, Tony Leung was really good in this.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah.
Okay. So tickets went on sale. We bought tickets. We then went on a 2-week vacation. First time really. Well, I mean, we've done like family vacations, but the first time we were able to do like a you and me big trip.
Uh-huh.
So we haven't podcasted in 2 weeks. Feels like, oh yeah, training wheels. Got to put the training wheels back on to podcast again here. Not really. It's like riding a regular old bike. And the movie comes out. We get home on a Sunday. We go see this on Labor Day. And I think we should talk a little bit about our theater experience with this movie.
Yeah.
Because it was simultaneously
like, yeah.
ruled and simultaneously sucked.
Yeah.
So
let's
please.
start with the bad news. The people sitting near on my side, we had seats in between, like a empty seat on my side, an empty seat on Micah's side. And then an empty seat between us because we don't sit together. Joke. But the people on my side, it was flabbergasting that throughout the whole movie, I think someone was snoring. But every time I looked over, I don't think either of them were sleeping. and one time I looked over and it was the girl, and I'm like, okay, so it must be her boyfriend who's sleeping. And then like a minute later, the boyfriend like gets up and goes to the bathroom.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, I don't know if either of them were sleeping, but the snoring sound was so loud.
Uh-huh.
I had to like put my hand over my ear because for me, I just definitely get very annoyed very easily by things, and it kind of gets to a point where I like allow it to annoy me. I have a hard time ignoring it at that point. So it got to a point, and this movie has a lot of quiet moments in it, and all I could think about was this snoring noise to my left, and it was driving me insane.
Yeah. So, okay. Because I have to piggyback on that because I had another experience on my right. So I did not hear any of the snoring.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's our theater or if this is a different thing for this movie, but it felt like they mixed the sound differently than previous Marvel movies. Because previously, when it's an action scene, it's ripping off your ears. When it's a quiet scene, it's really quiet. I mean, not to the extent of, say, a Tenet, but certainly
but loud.
Drastic.
Yeah.
And this movie kind of felt like it never got too loud and it never got too quiet.
Yeah.
Which was kind of strange. I almost felt like the action they could have, but I don't know, it could have been our theater.
Yeah.
I feel like they could have maybe bumped up some of the...
I feel like a lot of the times it's just our theater.
Yeah, it probably is. But so having said that, even in action scenes, I could sometimes hear stuff. But I was sitting next to this woman. She was one over. And when we when we sat down to watch the movie, she's laughing at like all of the commercials before the movie. And she's laughing at the trailers and stuff. So I'm thinking, this could be annoying, but maybe this is actually fun because I like when Marvel audiences are into it.
Mm-hmm.
But like a half hour into the movie, she started sniffing. And what I mean by that, loyal listeners, is she started going...
And she wasn't crying?
And I was... no, she was not crying as far as I could tell. And you may think, oh, Micah, you're exaggerating. There's no way someone could sniff that often. I promise you, I'm not exaggerating. For 2 hours of the movie, she was...
And I was so distracted by the snoring noise that I couldn't... I missed that part on my right side. And then as the movie ends, someone lets out this giant belch. that, and I think the person burped, and then they immediately said, "Uh-oh." That was just funny.
What blew my mind? So also, if you are not from the county that we live in and listening to this episode, we are currently, at least like last week, we are the number one COVID place in America. Our county sucks right now. And so I'm sitting next to someone who is not following the state mandate that's been reinstated.
Neither were the people on my side.
So none of them are wearing masks. It's just Jordan and I wearing masks in the theater. And I'm just hearing someone sniffle the whole movie. So
I'm hearing someone having potential like breathing issues, this is a virus known for having breathing issues.
So there's part of me that's like, well, one, thank goodness I'm vaccinated. But two, oh boy, I hope that this mask and the vaccination works, because who knows what's going on with these people. So that was the bad.
Yes, and we're still doing okay. We're still healthy.
We are, yes. Here's what was good about the movie. This crowd was excited to be there. And when something happened in the movie, they kind of freaked out.
This is the first Marvel movie I've ever seen where there is a fight scene going on, and it's like takes down one bad guy, takes down another bad guy. Then the other bad guy shows up, and his arm becomes a sword. This is the first time I've ever heard people say, "Oh, like how's he gonna do this one?" It was awesome.
It kind of felt like they had just like not seen a lot of action movies, because they seemed genuinely like baffled when stuff happened.
I think the action in this Marvel movie is so refreshing.
Oh,
for
totally.
a Marvel movie, because you're going into it and it's like, yes, it is technically an action movie, but how many people are going to a Marvel movie for the action? Not many people. They're going for the story and the characters.
Yeah.
So it almost like it's one of the few Marvel movies where you were like wrapped up in the action. And it were like hits, they feel like they hurt. You know where people are. And then they're like, shot-wise, just taking artistic choices on how to film a fight scene.
Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah. I know it's taken 25 movies for them to be like, you know what? Let's really film the action in a way that's interesting.
This is the second movie we've seen this year where there is a fight on a bus. And both of them are crazy.
Yeah, because Bob Odenkirk's Nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Which maybe, well, let's not compare the two fights.
No, they're just both crazy.
But so that was really fun. And to avoid some spoilers, there were some connections to previous movies. And when those happened, there were people in the theater who were literally like, what?
I was kind of like that too.
Whoa,
I turned to Mike and I'm like, that is that.
Which, I mean, that's part of the fun of these movies, I think.
Yeah.
And, I remember when Avengers Endgame came out, and David Sims, I think in his article on the movie, was kind of saying how, like, these movies are so, like, their appeal is so massive that things like Easter eggs and references to other movies almost aren't even Easter eggs, because we're all so familiar with it, we all get excited by it. It's not like only this fan, like a small group gets it. I think that's what he said. And I like that about this universe.
Yeah, me
Sometimes
too.
that stuff is distracting, but it's like they've earned it. And so, stuff like the Hulk villain showing up, which is in the trailer, so that's not a spoiler. We'll get into it because you forgot, and that's okay.
Which, like, from
The Incredible Hulk, the villain of that movie was the guy with Wong.
What? Who? What?
We'll get into it.
What are you talking? Oh, okay, but it doesn't. That character doesn't look the same.
No, they redesigned it.
This character looked like a swamp monster.
Yeah, because
it almost looked like a monster from Space Jam, one of the Monstars. It kind of looked like.
Well, so I'll explain this.
Yeah, like I'm gonna catch that one.
Well, I did tell you before the movie came out,
No,
but that's okay.
Oh,
I did.
okay, like months ago.
Yeah, when the trailer came out.
Yeah,
but
because I'm paying attention to all of that.
I said it's okay. But yeah, Abomination is that villain's name. It's the Tim Roth character.
They don't say it in the movie though, right?
I don't remember.
They don't like call it the Abomination.
No, but it is for sure.
But yeah.
But in the comics, he looks more amphibious.
Oh,
and
cool.
In the Incredible Hulk, you'll remember he's just kind of like a gray, goopy.
I thought it was purple.
Spiky. No,
Maybe
he's gray.
The gamma stuff was purple, I think.
It's always green, baby.
Oh, yeah.
So he's kind of like gray and spiky,
yeah.
and it's Tim Roth again. And yeah, I was trying to jog because I could tell you were not tracking, but they redesigned him because they're like, let's make him look cool.
Yeah. But he kind of looked like he just looked very humanoid.
Yeah, but he had the cool what is it, like what's that monster called? The fish, the Black Lagoon. He kind of has a creature from the Black Lagoon look to him.
Yeah.
So I thought that was cool. But let's talk about the movie now and who made it. So the movie's directed by Destin Daniel Cretton. I forgot to look up pronunciations. He's the director of Just Mercy, Short Term 12, The Glass Castle.
Oh, okay.
So he's a big Brie Larson guy.
But he doesn't get Brie.
He does.
Well, yeah, okay, fine, for a post-credit scene.
Screenplay is by Dave Callahan. Oh, wait, no, I believe it's Dave Callahan. Because we talked about him, because he did the screenplay for a movie you and I love that everybody else hates, Wonder Woman 1984.
Yeah.
And then the screenplay is also the director and Andrew Lenham, who has written all of this guy's movies.
Okay.
The story is Dave and Dustin again.
Dustin or Destin? You said
Destin. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry. The cinematography is William Pope. And
oh, they got a pope?
they got a pope.
Wow.
So this is a big guy.
Going back to Godfather, and the next episode is going to come out. A lot of popes, and we're keeping it consistent with having a pope in this one.
So William Pope did the cinematography. Now this guy, it was smart of them to hire because this is the guy who's done, a movie famous for the martial arts that kind of revolutionized action movies that came out in 1999 called The Matrix.
Okay.
He did another movie called Spider-Man 2, which has great action sequences.
Like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
He did a movie called Baby Driver, which has crazy action sequences. Yeah. He did another one called Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
I'm listening.
So this guy knows how to film action.
Yes.
And
very stylistically, because all those movies are very different.
Very different. So and that's just a couple that I picked. I cherry picked those.
Okay.
But he's a great cinematographer. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, okay. No wonder I liked how good this movie looked.
I think that definitely, just those few movies that you mentioned speak to how well that person works with a director.
Yeah.
Because I wonder for like some action stuff with Matrix, is it Matrix 1 with the bullet thing?
Yeah. Yep.
And I know that's FX. I know. But like,
they did set up cameras.
Right. Yeah. So it is like, the Wachowskis are telling him like, this is what we want to do. And the person's like, okay, we're going to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, and like, these Edgar Wright movies, Baby Driver and Scott Pilgrim, are they are not standard movies.
No.
So you have to be very creative. So, yeah. I mean, the guy's a great, great addition to the American Film Institute.
Yeah.
The music is by Joel P. West, and he's done all of...
Wonderful job, Joel.
I know.
You did it, buddy. It's a good score.
probably 2 or 3 best Marvel. Easy.
Yeah, it was so good. I hardly ever, maybe this is the first time ever, while I'm watching it, think the score's really good in this movie.
And the soundtrack, the songs they chose, I was like, heck yeah. Yeah, because I think I would maybe put the Black Panther score above it, maybe. And I might put Avengers Endgame above it, maybe. Mm-hmm. But this one's 2 or 3, easy. I mean, I was working the day after we watched this movie, and I just pulled it up, and I was just listening to the score, and I was like, dang, this is good. Yeah. This is so good. So keep that guy on your radar. He's done all of Destin's movies, and he also did 1 episode of Chef's Table. So,
okay, which one?
I don't know.
Kidding.
But he's done some scores, but from my notes and stuff, I feel like he's kind of like this will probably be a big break for him, and then maybe he'll start slinging out a lot of scores. Yeah. So, the movie comes out last Friday, September 3rd, 2021. It has a budget of $150 million. Now, I got to do a little bit of table setting here. If you recall, because of COVID, Black Widow did they streamed. You could buy the movie for $30 or rent it and watch it at home.
Do you have access of all the time once you do the $30 thing?
I think you do until it is out. I think
until it's like out of theaters or whatever.
Yeah, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So you could, do that for $30, watch it, or you could go to the theaters. Now, since then, Scarlett Johansson is currently suing Disney because there was a breach of contract. Go Scarlett. We hope you win. And so they said, we're coming out with this movie just in theaters. Now, we're still at a weird time. There's some variants of COVID that are happening. What's the box office going to be like? Well, Labor Day is famously a terrible box office weekend. So going into this weekend, people were saying, like, this will break the record for sure. Mm-hmm. It was just a matter of how much it'd break the record. So the previous old 3-day record was Rob Zombie's Halloween with $26.3 million.
Okay.
This movie, domestically, just talking domestically, made $71.4 million in 3 days.
Okay. That's pretty good.
And if you'll remember, in Black Widow, I think that movie made I want to say it was 60 for its 3-day, and then it made $40 million online. So this movie comparably made as much as Black Widow with no Disney.
Yeah, that's great.
In theaters.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, so it approximately made $90 million for its 4-day total, and then approximately, all of this stuff's going to change. We're still in the opening weekend, basically. It's already made about $146 million. So it's made its money back, close to it. And that's the box office rundown.
Okay.
So here is the other thing. And what's fun is, see, maybe I am having rusty with the training wheels on the podcasting. I'm trying to say so many things at once. But if you remember, when Iron Man came out, he was a B-rate Marvel character.
Yeah. People
knew who he was, but not the general public. Shang-Chi is probably more like a C, maybe even a D.
When was this character created?
This character was created in the 70s.
Okay.
And what's also something to acknowledge, and I don't know the full history of it, but there was this character, I don't remember who made it or for what company, but they made this character named Fu Manchu.
Okay.
A white person, very stereotypical racist caricature.
Yeah.
That this person came up with because they were contacting a Ouija board, and it said Chinaman as something that they should create.
That's a true story.
That's a true story. And so they made this character, this fictional character, and I apologize for saying that slur, but I'm just illustrating what happened. That's a racist Ouija board, I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
But demons aren't necessarily,
they're
not necessarily very, very woke. We'll put it that way. But so he makes his character, and then someone somewhere along the line pitches the character to Marvel in the 70s, and they come up with a character that would be the son of Fu Manchu, Shang-Chi.
Okay.
And over the years, he's never been that popular, but he has been a good old-fashioned stereotypical, written by white people.
Yeah.
Borderline racist character.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's still some good stories in there and stuff. But that's another thing where it's you're gonna try and make some, this character a thing. Currently, they do have an Asian American writer that's writing the comics, and they're kind of in the process of trying to reclaim the character for Asian Americans.
Yeah.
And the character of Fu Manchu doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
They've changed it to Mandarin, and it's more like this character we see in this movie.
Yeah.
But even so, for this movie, the director and the writers and
Simu Liu,
he was talking about how they basically were able to just kind of rewrite the origins of this character.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to create a character that wasn't like just a martial arts kung fu master that's in America that kicks butt. They want him to be a real person that you can relate to, whether you're white, Asian, black, whatever. You know, because that's a lot of times where a lot of racist things come in, is when you think that a group of people is just a thing instead of people.
Mm-hmm.
I think they accomplished that in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's kind of the history of that character. And Stan Lee originally tried to do some sort of project with Shang-Chi in the 80s.
Wow.
And he was hoping for it to star Brandon Lee, the son of Bruce Lee. And then later on, the director of Blade, Stephen Norrington, he signs on to direct The Hands of Shang-Chi in like the late 90s, early 2000s. But is later replaced by Yoon Woo Ping, our guy from Master
Z. Okay.
And the choreographer for Kill Bill, which we're talking about on our Patreon this month. So he signs on to direct it in 2004, and then the rights relapse. They go to Marvel, and then in 2005, one of the guys from Sony, Avi Arad, is like, okay, we're making this movie. And then, of course, they don't make the movie.
Yeah.
But then
it's in their back pocket. That's probably what they thought about for many years.
Exactly.
When they were formulating this universe.
Yes. But Avi is not necessarily... He has some producing credits on, I think, Incredible Hulk and I think Iron Man, but none of the others. Because he's Sony.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay.
So he might have the Spider-Mans as well. But then the 10 Rings, the organization, is in Iron Man. Because Tony's company sells, what are those called? Weapons? That's the word.
Yeah.
Weapons, and the terrorist group, the 10 Rings, gets a hold of them.
In what movie? The first one?
Iron Man.
Wow.
Like the first one. So it's kind of cool because this has been in the series.
Yep.
So that's another cool, like, lived-in world experience. And then, of course, famously in Iron Man 3, there's the actor Trevor who portrays the Mandarin. But that's the villain of this movie. So what's that about? We'll get to that. The stunt coordinator of this movie is Brad Allen, who recently passed away like a month ago. And he was a member of Jackie Chan's stunt team.
Oh, okay.
So that explains some of the coolness. The movie was shut down in February, or it was shut down in March because of COVID, and it had started filming last February. So they got like a couple of weeks of filming. Then they had to shut down. Then they resumed.
2020?
Yes, yeah. And then they resumed in July and August. And then finally, let's see here. I got two more for you. Simu. Simu.
I mean, it's Simu.
So he tweeted at Marvel like years ago and said, hey, he said, are we going to talk or what? And did hashtag Shang-Chi. And he got hired to do the movie.
Was there anyone else?
There were some other people who were trying to be Shang-Chi, but it kind of started because of that. Simu Liu. So he tweeted at Marvel, and he somehow got the job.
Good for him.
And then finally, I'm pretty sure that this is Tony Leung's first English movie.
Really?
But
Shouldn't I know that?
He's a huge famous actor. But
he looks very familiar to me. He looks familiar to me.
Well, I think he's in a couple of Ang Lee's movies.
Well, that doesn't help me.
Well, I think he's in Crouching Tiger. I believe.
I never watched it.
Really?
I've just seen some of it, and it was awesome.
We got to watch that movie. That's a good movie.
So he's in that movie?
I think.
Okay.
But
Shouldn't I know?
This is your job, okay?
Yeah.
So let's go over to actors, Jordan.
So Tony Leung, let's see. Let's go all the way back. He's been around since 2000. And he's in Seven Warriors, 1989. Isn't that a big movie?
No, I don't know this stuff very well.
I know. It's like a blind spot in my film.
We got a little better last year. And, they did cite that the Ip Man movies were an inspiration behind this movie.
Cool.
And
that's
we
cool.
covered that series about 1 year ago. So that's kind of fun.
We're just doing our homework. Yeah, I mean, he is in pretty much only Chinese movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. In the Mood for Love seems to be a big one for him.
That's a big one. That's a very famous movie.
I've never seen that. Have you seen it?
I haven't, and I think that's a problem from what I can tell.
Oh, okay.
It seems like a beautiful movie.
Yeah, what I'm looking at looks great. Two neighbors form a strong bond after both suspect extramarital activities of their spouses. However, they agree to keep their bond platonic so as not to commit similar wrongs. That's an interesting movie.
Yeah, that's like that's in the top 250, I think. So I've known about that forever.
Well, let's watch it, Micah.
Let's watch it.
He's also in Internal Affairs.
Yes, we watched half of that movie, and then we were really tired, and we didn't finish it.
When?
Years ago.
Years ago.
Yeah, because that's the movie that The Departed is based on. Based on.
Based on. Or inspired by.
Yeah.
I don't really remember very much.
And guess how
We
many?
must have been really tired.
Guess how many movies are in that series?
Whoa.
3. So it's on the table.
He's also in The Grandmaster. Oh, he's in The Grandmaster, and he plays Ip Man. That's why I recognize him.
Okay. Which we didn't watch that movie.
Oh, okay. Still has the same. His wife is in it though.
Because Donnie Yen is our Ip Man that we've covered.
Oh, I thought that maybe. I can't keep anything straight anymore.
Well,
I know.
It's confusing because they had some actors that were. So they have like 3 different Ip Man series.
That's what
And we covered one of them, but there's certain actors that are in multiple. And I think they even play some of the same characters. So it's very confusing.
I think because one of them didn't have Donnie Yen in it at all of the series that we covered. Yeah. I'm just lost on the whole thing.
The best one.
Yeah, really good. Okay. So Simu Liu is in Kim's Convenience, a show I've never heard of.
Apparently, according to Dominic, awesome.
Looks cute.
It looks cute. I like the images.
He's also in Taken. Wait. The show.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm like looking at this poster, I'm like, that is not Liam Neeson. You cannot fool me. He's also in Blood and Water, a show I've also never heard of. And then he's in Awkwafina's Nora from Queens. He's in that show. And then he's in some indie stuff. And just a lot of shows. Oh, he's been in Orphan Black, Dark Matter.
Well,
he's making a big splash.
I think a lot of his stuff has been more on the side of like in an extra or maybe like doing some stunts on something, I believe. So
nice. This is his breakout.
This is huge for him.
Okay, and then Awkwafina is in Crazy Rich Asians, The Farewell that everyone needs to see.
Beautiful movie.
She's also in, as I said, Awkwafina's Nora from Queens. She is most recently also in recently in Raya and the Last Dragon. Voices in that.
2 dragon movies, same year.
Yep. She's also in Ocean's 8. I got this. Okay, no, I'm just not going to get into it. But yeah, she's wonderful. I remember when she started, I think it was when Crazy Rich Asians came out and people were like, Awkwafina's so funny. And I'm like, I don't know who this person is. I haven't seen this movie. And then I think I saw her, she was in like a commercial for something that would play before movies in the theater. And I'm like, who is this person? And then I saw The Farewell. So it's like before I knew that she was a funny person, I like saw her in a very dramatic role and I was like, she is so good. And then seeing her, since then I've seen Crazy Rich Asians and other stuff where she's funny in it. And it's like, man, she's awesome. I love her.
I know it's funny. It's always funny when you discover an actor through the thing that is like defying who they are.
Yeah.
Because that's the same with me where I watch Awkwafina and I'm like, wow, she's like amazing in this movie. Who is this person? Which is Kind of like, come on, that movie came out in like 2018 and you didn't really know who Aquafina was, Micah.
Oh yeah, we're in the wrong on that. I mean, we're behind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then watching this and Raya, and it's like, oh, she's like a wisecracker.
Mm-hmm.
She's very funny.
Mm-hmm.
That's her thing. Farewell was like her stepping out of that.
Mm-hmm. And then Minjur Zhang, I'm probably saying that wrong, but she plays Xialing, the sister.
Oh yeah.
She is in this movie. That's it.
Did you notice? I felt like the acting in this movie was really interesting. It was like much more naturalistic than the other Marvel movies.
What do you mean by that?
Well, there were some times where it was kind of like it didn't have the bravado that a lot of these movies have, if that makes sense. I don't really know how to describe it, but there was times where like Simu just seemed like someone I would run into somewhere and talk to. Like it just felt a little more naturalistic than other movies.
And this movie also just felt so like there just weren't, and I know that there probably were because it is a Marvel movie, but just not really one-liners. And I don't mean jokes, just a lot of like Captain America, Iron Man movies, or just like the staple ones. It's very much like ABC, blah 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 blah. Like we have to here's the thing, we have to do this thing. Let's go do the thing. I know I'm not explaining it well, but
no, I know
but sometimes it just feels kind of clunky, and I guess I do agree with you. It just I was so wrapped up in the story. It was just so well written that I didn't even think about that.
Yeah,
didn't feel as cheesy in that way. And maybe if it did, I just didn't care.
Yeah.
Like if it is. And then Fala Chen plays Lee, the mother.
Okay.
She is in The Undoing, Heading South, The Sound of the Desert, a lot of Chinese films as well, actually for the most part. So yeah.
Cool.
And then, I also wanted to just mention, so the Death Dealer, which is the guy in the mask with the little throwing knives,
very cool.
or I don't know what that weapon is called. Really great character design, and this wasn't like a big worry I had while watching the movie, but it was like a passing thought of like, I hope it's not important who this is. He just looks cool, and I think I just like to leave it there.
Yeah, they this is your mother or something like that. Yeah,
they're just well, I mean, that's what Black Widow had, and that it was fine. Like, it made sense in the story that it mattered who it was. But this was just like, nah. Yeah. This is great. I love it. That character is played by Andy Lay, who is like a stunt person. So it was also just cool to know that they casted a stunt person for that role. Yeah. Instead of it's got to be someone everyone knows. I think because it wasn't really important character wise, it's just let's put someone who knows how to use their body. Yeah. For stunts in this. It was great. That is about it.
Well, could you tell me I think they said he was Croatian.
Okay, they said Romanian.
Romanian.
His name's Florian Munteanu. That's the guy with the sword arm.
Whoa. Hit me with that name again.
Florian Munteanu.
Wow.
I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly.
That is cool.
It doesn't say where he's from, if that's what you're asking.
No, I was asking what his movies were.
Oh, he's in Creed 2. He plays Victor Drago.
Oh, okay.
Is that like the Russian son or something?
That's the Russian son, yeah. Okay. So I've seen him. Okay, that's good enough for me.
That's really all he's in. That, and then Boggett.
Bob's Burgers is what you're trying to say?
Yeah, he's Bob.
He's Bob.
Yeah. That looks like it's a short, an action short. Okay. And then he's going to be in Borderlands next year.
Oh, okay. That's a video game.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, they got Jack Black already for that, and Cate Blanchett.
Wow.
And Kevin Hart. And Jamie Lee Curtis.
Wow.
Jack. Oh, Eli Roth is directing that. That's interesting.
Yeah. Maybe.
That's interesting to me.
I guess, yeah. No, it's definitely interesting. I don't know if that qualifies for quality.
Well, isn't it kind of like most of the time video game adaptations just don't work? So yeah. Sounds like they got an interesting start. Yeah. But yeah, that is pretty much it. Of course, there are more people, but those are the real highlights.
Yes, as is the case with many of these movies. So before we get into spoilers, should we talk? I guess you can tell that we really liked this movie a lot.
Mm-hmm.
When the movie finished, I hope I'm not embarrassing you, Jordan, but Jordan turned to me and she said, "So that was pretty much a perfect movie, right?" So if you are listening to this and you are wondering what our opinions are, but you haven't seen it yet, you were just tuning into the first half and then you'll listen to the second half later, it's good. It's really good.
I just have no. They're like a little things.
There's some stuff that I'm going to complain about later.
Interesting. No, nothing story wise. Story wise, it is tight as a drum. This is a very good story. And I am always a sucker for family stuff.
Yeah.
So keeping it in the family kind of stuff. I also just love it's a big point in this movie, but I feel like it's a big thing in Chinese culture that I've just seen in other movies that I just appreciate and just don't think that this is part of American culture, which is kind of sad to me. Where in America, it's all about being an individual and who you are and what are you gonna do.
Yeah.
And from what I've seen in movies, in Chinese culture, it is about who your family is and what that means about who you are. When in America, it's what you do is who you are. But from what I've seen in movies in Chinese culture,
I think that is the culture. Yeah, I think that's okay
where
to say.
It's just, it matters who your family is, and you need to honor that legacy, or that's your burden.
Yeah.
And I think the movie does that very well, and it's just very clear, and I always love stuff like that.
Me too. Yeah, my little, before we get into it, is as far as Marvel goes, I mean, obviously I put it in the higher tier. I think it's really, really great. I think the choreography and martial arts was awesome. I mean, of course you could probably be but have you seen this Jackie Chan movie or that? Or even Ip Man or stuff. There's better stuff, but...
Oh, I'm not saying it's anything comparable, to something that's better than that, but...
But it's certainly, I will say this with certainty, this is the most distinct action Marvel movie of all of them.
And on top of that, they spend many seconds showing dragons fight, where none of the characters can do a thing and are not involved. And that just felt good. Because usually it is just what can the superhero do and how are they affecting things? They have to be in every shot. And this is just this is who Shang-Chi is. This is what he has to do and confront. But he's really not the biggest part of the story. He is in a world where there are things bigger than him. And I think that's kind of the point. Where he has to face these things. And then we get several darn seconds of dragons fighting.
And this was a very rare occasion for me where I went to a modern blockbuster movie, and at some point in the movie, someone describes a possible evil that will be unleashed into the world, and we see some visuals of what that might look like. And many times when I see that, I go, I've seen movies.
Yeah.
I know it's going to come out at some point and they're going to have to fight the thing and then they'll put it back and it'll be fine. And when I saw the potential of what this creature could look like, or this thing, I don't want to spoil, I put my hands up in the theaters and I did a come to Papa motion, because I was like, that looks cool and Micah needs to see that thing.
There are a lot of amazing creatures in this movie because of the huge fantasy element. Watch the movie
lions.
For the creatures alone, people. There is a little creature who doesn't have a face, and yet it's still adorable.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
So that's our thing. So let's do good old-fashioned spoiler alert. Micah, hit it.
Spoiler alert. 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 Spoiler alert.
Okay, so now that we're on the other side of the spoiler alert, we can say this movie was horrible, right, Jordan?
Oh, it sucked.
It was the worst.
Bad.
No. So the movie begins. And right away, the score swells, and we're getting a nice other score, and we're just having this narration. And something that I appreciated a lot is they only spoke English when it made sense for the character to speak in English.
Yeah.
even though this is a movie that's going to have a lot of American kids at it, they did not try to. I mean, maybe someone would have a different opinion. I didn't feel like they tried to pander to the English-speaking audience because the first 20 minutes of this movie, until Shang-Chi is introduced, there's no English spoken.
Yeah.
And that's not 20, that's probably more like 8 to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was kind of thrilled by that, I will say.
Very cool.
And so we're going along, we're hearing this woman speaking, and she's describing the Legend of the Ten Rings.
I thought it was the dad.
No, definitely
Then
not.
who is it?
I believe it's,
The mom?
I think it's the aunt. I think it's Michelle Yeoh who is
Really?
talking. I
Are you
believe
sure?
so. No, I'm saying I believe so.
Doesn't
But
at one point cross, though, and he's narrating?
it might.
Wow. Well, now
Oh,
I just want to
no.
I think it's him.
No, it's definitely the mom because it cuts to her talking to Shang, and she's telling him the Legend of the Ten Rings.
I thought he did it at one point though,
I-
because the interesting the only reason it's
Yeah.
bugging me is because one of the first things that's said in the movie is it is believed that the rings, there are many different legends explaining where the rings come from.
Yeah.
And and what they do, so pretty much they give you really cool powers and eternal life.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought he said that. But maybe I'm just thinking that because we're with him, the dad.
Yeah, he does not narrate at the
now
very
I'm gonna have to
beginning.
see this movie again. It's bugging me that bad. But yeah, so you see, this is thousands of years ago
Yeah,
war.
also
and
cool.
I'm like, okay, let's go. Give me a Fellowship of the Ring intro to this movie. So it's the dad. What was the dad's name? I would like to know.
Oh, Winwoo or
Zhu Wenwu. But I think they say Wenwu.
so I got it right, Winwoo.
Yeah.
Cool.
So he is a commander of this army at this, and then he already has the 10 rings because the whole like I just said, no one
Yeah.
knows where they're from, and even by the end of the movie, they're still trying to figure it out, and they're about to take on this other army. You see that no one's a match for him. He has eternal life. He's lived for thousands of years,
Yeah.
and he has created. He basically, in many ways, owns the world.
Uh-huh.
Of what he would like to own of the world. He has immense power, and he gets to a point where he hears of this ancient civilization, and it's like, okay, I'm going to go conquer that. Let's find it. Let's conquer it.
Yeah. Now, before you continue,
Yeah.
this is a nice thing, and it's also classic comic books, because we have only known the Ten Rings in this world as a terrorist organization that at one point was fronted by Ben Kingsley, who was an actor, Trevor,
Hired by Guy Pearce.
So it's wait, you're going to bring in the 10 rings? But then them right here just saying, there's so many legends about the 10 rings and kind of doing a classic comic book retcon where they're like, no. That other stuff, that was foolishness. That was craziness. This is the real story.
Yeah.
And I think it actually works really well. It didn't feel like, oh, they're taking back what they established.
As a non-comic book reader, didn't know and didn't remember.
Yeah. But I mean, as
I'm
far
saying,
as
I'm
the
just
world,
saying, as I'm watching it.
yeah. You didn't feel like they went back on things they established in the Iron Man movies or anything like
No,
that.
because even later in the movie, they basically explain it if you had any issues with it when he's talking to Awkwafina about, basically, if you're a bad guy at some point, they're going to want to put a face to the name. So they called me Mandarin.
Yeah.
So, it seems like whether or not he even had control over it, it's just it made them comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But I was over here still amassing my empire and fortune. It didn't affect him really from what it feels like. But
So now go into this Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon hero type scene.
yeah, so he drives through this bamboo forest that shifts around you,
Mm-hmm.
and he comes upon this little meadow with this. I think it's a cherry blossom tree. Maybe it's not. And there is a woman there who will not let him through to Tai Lo, which is the village that he's trying to get to. And they fight, but it's just so beautiful. First of all, the set is perfect. It looks like such a set.
I know.
Like such a
I love
movie
that.
set.
Yeah.
To the point where it's like, oh, I wish I could be there
Yeah.
and just see how it is. And
And it's like for sure a real set. Like you can just tell it's real.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And it very much reminds me of Hero, specifically the scene with the trees and all of the falling
where they're jumping
leaves
off
and
the
cherry
trees
blossoms.
and
The gold part specifically is what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Is that the same thing?
I think so.
Oh, okay. But they fight, but the choreography is just so perfect that it looks like a dance.
Right.
Because they're basically dancing.
And they're falling in love.
And they're falling
you can
in
tell.
love in this kind of fight dancing thing. And it's just beautiful. And he's trying to use his 10 rings, but she is, blessed with the divine power of this water dragon, like their guardian of this village, that like he's really no match for her. But the beautiful thing is she's not trying to like kill him. She's just trying to stop him.
Yeah.
When he probably would go into that village and like pillage the whole thing and burn it to the ground. It's just great. So yeah, they fall in love.
Another thing I loved about the movie was, as we learned with watching the Ip Man movies and then watching other martial arts movies recommended by Amy Johnston, our friend, there's such an importance on like the fighting styles in all these martial arts movies where it's like, in Ip Man, it's like, wait, he's gonna teach this village Wing Chun, which is a woman's fighting style, and everyone's like challenging Ip Man because they're like, you can't fight with a woman's style, but it defeats their styles.
Yeah,
and that's such a
concrete woman's style.
Yeah,
I don't remember that.
It's just been a while because that is like one of the things.
Oh,
a woman made up Wing Chun.
Oh,
and he's practicing it, and everyone's like,
forgot.
You fight like a girl, basically.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I do. And then they're
machine gun punch.
And so what's cool in this movie is you can tell that Win Woo is, I don't know what the styles are, but his is very forceful and intense, and hers is very flowy. And of course, Shang-Chi will like learn both styles and combine them at the end of the movie. And that's always cool in these types of movies. So we see all of that. Do we see Shang-Chi like training?
No.
Or we just cut to him in San Francisco?
Yeah, so his parents, these are his parents, they fall in love. She leaves her village because the village will not accept him. So she chooses love and leaves with him, and he also chooses to give up the 10 rings in order to have a family. That's a little bit revealed later.
Yeah.
But and then we cut to a young Shang-Chi, and his mom is telling him the story, and she gives him that pendant that says, "This is from Tai Lo. This will like always guide you home." And then it cuts to present day Sean, and he's wearing it still to this day.
Yeah. And then, we find out
we're in San Francisco too.
We're in San Francisco, that he's a valet. And I knew when that car pulled up, I'm like, he's for sure the valet. 100%.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, because they're setting, it's kind of funny because this movie has the most in common with it, I think, Iron Man. Because, like I said earlier, Iron Man B-rate person, this is a C-rate Marvel character, and they're having to like prove him to the audience just on like making a good movie. They can't rely on anything else.
Yeah.
And even to the fact of like a expensive car pulls up and then someone comes out and you're like, hey, this is like an Iron Man entrance. Like Tony Stark gets out of his car, and then we see, no, this isn't a story about Tony Stark throws the keys to the valet.
Yeah.
It feels like a commentary.
Oh, I like that. It's also cool too because this movie introduces you to this kid is the descendant of a father who has lived for thousands of years.
Yeah.
And his mother is from some ancient village that you just simply can't find on a map. And he's a valet. What's the story? And when that happened, I immediately was like, okay, so we know that he like was with his mom, like just back in that last scene as a kid, but like what's happened? Why is he a valet? Is he like undercover? Like, I'm just like thinking like, or did they just raise him like a normal person? And like later in the movie, he's going to like actualize these powers he didn't know he had. Like I had no idea.
Yeah.
And that was really refreshing. And Awkwafina is also a valet. Her name's Katie, who is they're best friends, have been best friends for like 10 years, and their chemistry is so good They're just
Totally,
good best
totally.
friends. And if in a later movie they want to make them fall in love, whatever, that's fine. But I just loved in this movie, they're just best friends. And I
Yeah.
love it. And I love
Just like you and I were totally platonic.
Uh-huh. For a long time. It was torture. And so it's just so great. Like, they've been friends for so long. It's like, I know everything about him. He knows everything about me. And then you find out that's not true. But they take the car out on a joyride,
Yeah.
which was very fun. And then does it cut to the bar?
Yeah, it cuts to the bar with their friends, which is a great scene.
Such a funny scene.
So basically, we're seeing, Sean and Katie are, Arrested Development. These people are not growing up according to the world's standards.
Yeah.
And so they're with their friends, and it's a married couple, and they've got their life put together.
Mm-hmm.
And they're kind of saying, you guys are immature.
Well, her friend said they were talking about the story that their friend was involved in, but her husband didn't know about it. And it's like, that sounds very out of character for you. How come I've never heard about this?
Yeah.
And she's like, well, I just decided one day to grow up.
Right.
To which Katie and Sean are like, what do you mean by that?
Right.
Because we're all the same age.
Yeah.
And it's just great setup of characters, especially from this person's perspective of like, well, I just decided one day that I don't want to do that stuff anymore. I want to be a professional adult, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then Katie's only response is, you dress like my mom. And you kind of sound like her too now.
Yeah.
And so,
very defensive.
Yeah, just doesn't like it. And then they go do karaoke, Sean and Katie.
Go to karaoke. There's some funny stuff, but they're going, and eventually they hop on a bus to go to work.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're on a bus, Shang-Chi is attacked by, minions.
They want his pendant.
And this is pretty quick into the movie, which is nice. And it's this great action sequence. And you can tell, I don't know exactly how it breaks down, but it seems like Simu was doing most of the work, if not all of the stunt work.
Yeah.
Because he's like jumping through bars and stuff on the bus and fighting people, and it just didn't look fake in any way in that regard.
Yeah, it looks good.
And obviously he has a background in working on stunts and stuff, so I don't know why they wouldn't do it except for like an insurance policy reason or something. But
totally.
I think he was doing his stunts in this movie.
For
Or the
part.
majority of them. And so this whole bus scene, it's great. It's crazy. I do have a small complaint about it, though.
Okay.
And that is there's this weird element to this movie where the effects in this movie, the visual effects, when it comes to creatures and when it comes to the fighting and all that, it looks insane. Like those lions, the weird bat creatures that don't have faces that are furry. Amazing, the dragon, but the cars and sometimes the landscape looked so bad.
Yeah, it looked weird.
Like, and there were just shots. I know that they did a lot of this bus stuff practically.
Yeah.
But there's just
it's almost like the lighting's just different. It's just off.
Yeah.
Like it's almost as if like everything's in focus, or the colors are too bright outside.
You could tell a lot of times when they were doing blue or green screen, it was pretty easy to tell. And some of that might be even like COVID breakdowns, like not being on the same set. But there was just a lot of stuff that was sort of jarring of how bad it looked.
I didn't notice it actually in this scene too much. Later on, though, I did with some stuff.
There was just a lot of times where I was like, the bus is CG. Why?
I wonder if it is just COVID, though. It really just messed up their schedule, and they're like, we got to figure this out.
But then, I see behind the scenes footage where they're like crashing buses and stuff. So I'm like, what?
But what if something's like a reshoot?
Yeah. So some of that was weird, and like the bamboo forest looked awful. I
don't
know how
it didn't
you
really
do it,
bother me. I think that's kind of the thing is the suspension of disbelief was so strong for me at that point that I didn't really even notice that. And I was probably too much like, this forest moves so you can't get back home? That's cool. So, I mean, you know me, I liked the monster in Batman versus Superman.
Yeah, which is crazy.
I know.
One of the worst creations.
It was just like kind of a bright spot in that movie to me.
Jordan liked the design of Doomsday.
I don't know what.
Batman
I think I'm
v
just
Superman.
falling
You
more
like-
and more in love with monsters.
You like a goop.
I like monsters. Yeah, they're cool. But that being said, this scene is very cool.
It is a great scene,
and
though.
it is like character-wise, this is when Katie discovers that Sean is not who she thought he was, because this guy is trying to, from their perspective, just steal something from him, and she's like, back off. And then
Yeah.
Sean just takes care of the whole thing, and she drives the bus, which is very funny. And then that was the part of the movie when the audience goes, whoa, to the
Yeah.
guy's sword arm. And then that is another just kind of like, come on, guys, we didn't have to do this thing with the movie, is the sword arm guy is just your average henchman dude with a beard.
Yeah, I don't know why they made that decision. That was weird.
I don't know why they, I mean, maybe just because they just needed a big guy, but it just doesn't make sense.
He was just, and I don't want to blame the actor. You know, he was great in Creed 2, but he was like so uninteresting in this movie.
Well, it's just,
it was
he's like,
crazy.
his hairline is perfect, his beard is perfect, his skin, there's not
He
a
just
pore
wasn't
on his
interesting
face.
to
So
look at.
therefore, he's like, it's that whole, he's too symmetrical or something. Like, he fits that stereotype too perfectly
Yeah.
that it's just like, if you didn't have a sword arm, I would not remember you by the end of this movie.
Well, there's that weird balance where, say you're watching John Wick or something, and you see a henchman.
At least put a tattoo on him.
Well, no. So hang on. I think you'll understand what I mean by this. But you'll see a henchman, and if you pause the movie, you go, "Yeah, that looks like a henchman, not someone who has lines in this movie." But then you can pause it on someone else, and there's just like a certain look where it's like, now that looks like someone who needs lines in this movie. But it's like, this guy looks like he shouldn't have any lines.
No, he should be. Yeah, it was just.
I
weird
just think
choice.
he didn't match the tone of the movie.
No.
And to me, like, right away, perfect fix. Just make the crazy person who has the mask on that character and forget about.
Oh yeah, that would have been so easy, and that per character was so much more interesting to look at. Part of that character being so interesting though was they didn't talk.
I don't think that character needed to talk.
I don't think so
You
either.
know?
But it's just like, even later on in this movie when they're the big fight.
Yeah.
When it gets to the point where it's like, we all need to work together now, good guys and bad guys, and he has to like be convinced of it. And I just thought, why is he still alive? Like, I guess why does he get to keep his soul and not this cool dude with this cool mask?
Or the bow guy, the archer. I was like bummed that he died.
So it just didn't make sense. Didn't work. I would like to know how they got there.
Having said all that, though, I mean, I feel like I'm kind of grasping at straws for like criticism because I liked the rest of the movie so much. It's like, oh, I'm just going to point this out because we have an hour and a half to talk about this movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like if I'm having casual conversation, I'm not going to spend time talking about
But it needs to be said.
It needs to be
because
said.
they keep doing it in action movies. And it's just...
He just seemed
think
like
a little bit harder about that character.
Obligatory, like, beginning of a Captain America movie, the guy you kill really quickly.
Yeah.
That sets up a conflict later.
Yeah. That being said...
We'd love to have you on the show.
Florian. The bus gets cut in half. Bad guys get away, and they steal the pendant.
From one half to the other, which I loved that.
Very cool.
Yeah, and they steal the pendant. And then pretty much right away, they're like, yeah, we got to go to... I think it's China, right?
Probably.
I'm not sure, but I think it is China.
They well, I mean, Katie is like, okay, who are you? Before that.
Right.
And Sean is saying like, there's no time to, the kind of the classic, like, no time to explain. I'll explain when I get back. And she's like, okay, I gotta go pack first.
Yeah.
Just love that friend. I just love that stuff in movies all the time where it's like, okay, yeah, we're going. And he's like, no, you were never part of it.
It was nice that he wasn't like, no, seriously. And she had to like sneak on the plane. And there was an extended like...
No,
he was like, okay, I know who you are. And I know nothing I'm going to say is going to deter you.
Exactly. So they're going to what he believes is his sister because he received this postcard with an address. And he's just assuming it's his sister.
Yeah.
And if these bad guys came for him from his dad, he knows they're going to come for her next.
Yeah.
So they think they're going to go find her, and then they find themselves in this like fight club,
Now-
underground fight club thing.
A couple of fun things about it.
Yeah.
One, I'm going to guess you didn't notice this, but they look and they see a fight, and there's someone who has a glowing orange body.
Yeah, this is Super Soldier.
That's the Iron Man 3 specific, like, Guy Pearce people that Guy Pearce was making.
Oh.
So I thought that was fun.
Okay.
And you're just seeing
Howard the
interesting
Duck
people.
Right?
They should have put
I know,
Howard
I
the Duck in
know.
there. And then we see Abomination from The Incredible Hulk, which is kind of, but they have had Thunderbolt Ross in these movies.
Huh?
William Hurt in these movies.
His name's Thunderbolt Ross.
Yes. Do you know anything about comic books?
No, that's just such a dumb name. His God-given or Christian name, Thunderbolt,
Okay, he was made in like 1965 or something like that.
doesn't make it not an excuse.
These
Dude.
are made for kids, Jordan. Call him Thunderbolt Ross. It's
I don't
cool.
So the dude that greets them off the elevator and is with them for a while, he is so good.
Wait, can I finish what I was going to say?
No.
So Thunderbolt Ross has been in this Marvel series, but other than that, they don't really acknowledge the Incredible Hulk. I mean, of course, Hulk is in the movies, but even that, they kind of pretend like that movie didn't happen.
Yeah.
And it's kind of fun, as bad as that movie is, that they said, okay, we're taking the villain from that movie, and he's still in this universe. And they're like, we acknowledge it now.
Yeah.
Which, again, is a classic comic thing where it's like, everyone hates this run of Spider-Man or something, but then someone comes along and they figure out a way to make it fun or just kind of, elbow you and say, wasn't that kind of stupid? But hey, it's canon. It's fun. And then what's Doctor Strange's guy's name? Wong. He's there and he's like training the
Doesn't
Abomination.
that mean that the fight was fixed?
I don't know.
Potentially? Like, maybe not. But okay, but the dude that greets them, he's so funny. He's great.
Yes.
It's just a nice little salt in the dish that adds a little bit of flavor. So Shang-Chi has to fight, and it's going to be his sis.
Yeah.
And
when Awkwafina sees him without a shirt on, it's hilarious.
Oh, it's so well. I think it's just funny when the guy's like, "Yeah, take your shirt off," and that also just felt like a joke too. It's like, yeah, it's that part of the movie where you take your shirt off.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
And yeah, Awkwafina's she was very funny with that too.
She was taken aback, like she'd never seen him without his shirt off.
Yeah, and then he fights his sister. It's a very quick fight. She really hands his butt to him.
Yeah.
I'm glad that wasn't a drawn out thing. But you find out that she owns this. Okay, so Wong and Abomination, they go back off to
I don't know where.
some place to continue. Well, he's like, we got to continue training, and it's like, why? What?
Yes.
And then, but also like, who just made a ton of money? Was it you, Wong? Because you knew what was going to happen in this. That's
the
why
character,
it's,
not the actor.
No.
Yeah.
Like, is it fixed?
Yeah.
Like, it's just funny. It's funny.
I think it's cool too because Wong has been such a fun character in this universe, and to see him do something this strange is just kind of like, what's this guy's deal?
Yeah.
And I love that about the character where it's like you never know what this guy's gonna do.
Yeah.
Another kind of thing to point out is with this and then the post credit scene that had Bruce Banner,
Yeah.
not the Hulk anymore, with an arm in a sling.
Yeah.
Which we have no idea why that's the case.
And that's why people were freaking out. Because I feel like there were people having a big reaction.
Oh, yeah. Our audience was
I
very
just
much
didn't
freaking
remember
out.
that the last time we saw him, he was Hulk. And he could not be Hulk.
Oh, when I saw it, I was like, wait, what? That was what was going in my head. But they are coming out with She-Hulk, another show on Marvel Plus. I mean, Disney Plus.
Who's
And
playing
so
that?
Tatiana Maslany is playing
Whoa. Cool.
She-Hulk. And Tim Roth is signed on for the show. So I think this movie is setting up a couple of threads that will be paid off in that show.
But that's kind of an issue I have now with Disney Plus.
Yes.
Is post-credit scenes, are they movie related or show related?
Well.
And then same with the show.
Yeah.
Is it movie related or show related?
Well, and I do think these post-credit scenes, they actually felt kind of contained. Because the one post-credit scene is them saying, it's Captain Marvel and Bruce Banner saying, hey, your life's never gonna it's never gonna be what it was. You're pretty much an Avenger now. Get used to it. And then the other scene is like his sister, so it's kind of just like wrapping up this movie in a nice way. But as far as like visual stuff, I do see what you mean, where it's like, wait, I have to remember that the Hulk was.
Yeah, like that. The first post-credit scene is like a good reminder that it is a Marvel movie, because that is like the whole like we're aware of what you were doing, or we're aware that you exist now. Because most of the movie, there's nothing else like that.
Right.
The whole movie, there's nothing else like that. Like Wong even being in it, he didn't witness anything.
Right.
That we know of.
Also, there was a fun little nod where when Shang was walking into somewhere, there was a little poster that said, "Have post-blip anxiety? You're not alone. Call like this number or whatever." And
did either of them talk about
cool.
being blipped?
I don't believe they did.
I don't think so either. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
So, okay.
So he fights his sister. She's very like, you left when I was young. I don't like you. Go away. You suck.
We skipped over the fact that we did get some backstory on him.
Right.
When he was telling Katie that his father trained him to be a fighter. So when his mom died, and that's kind of like, wait, his mom died part of the movie. His father trained him to be like his best assassin. And then when he was like 14, I think, that was his first assignment. And he tells Katie that he didn't do it. And he just ran away.
Yeah. One hilarious thing about this movie, though, is he is 20 years old.
Oh, yeah, that's impossible.
They make that very clear.
Is he really supposed to be 20?
Well, because they say you left when it was 14, and he left, and I haven't seen him for 6 years. They say that like 4 times. So he's supposed to be 20 years old.
I don't think that's true. I think that...
No. Jordan, I'm telling you.
I know, but I'm just trying to figure out if a way that's not true.
The actor's got to be like 33, right? He's
probably 50.
He looks a lot older than you and I.
But the sister says at one point, I stopped worrying about it when I turned 20. And then later on, she says that she escaped home at 16. So it really could be any time in between then, right?
I'm pretty sure they say that he's 20.
He can't be 20.
Yeah, he was born in 1989, so...
The actor?
Yeah, the actor. So he's 30 or 31.
He's got to be older than 20. That's just ridiculous. You can't even tell me that Awkwafina's 20.
No.
Because she's not.
No. I'm sure Mike Combs is going to text me and be like, actually in the movie, or my sister, and they'll be like...
I actually would like...
I would like
that. So please let us know. For once, I'd like to know. He ran from home, and that's when he ended up in San Francisco, became best friends with Katie, end of story, until now. So he's with his sister, and she is saying that she's pretty much resented him the whole time.
Yep.
And it's interesting that she ran away from home, and Sean's response was to just hide. Her response is, I'm going to hide, but I'm going to create an empire while I do it.
Yeah.
Very much like her dad of creating an empire, which is kind of like that last post-credit scene made a lot of sense to me. And I thought it was great. And
I hope they pull that thread later in a movie.
Me too.
Because I'm like,
what does that mean?
I'm like, I know she's a good guy, but this seems a little dark. The way it was shot and seeing how intense it was and the costumes and stuff. It's like maybe she's a good guy, or maybe she's gonna be kind of like sometimes good, sometimes bad.
Well, remember, Sean said that she went back to the compound to shut down operations. And that post-credit scene, nothing's getting shut down there.
Yeah.
If anything, she is letting girls train, because the whole thing was she was not allowed to train.
Yeah.
Because she was a girl and she trained herself. So Wanwoo's, their dad's people show up and they're running from him. A really cool scaffolding scene, action scene of fighting.
Yeah.
That I thought looked really cool. I think it was a little dark.
Yeah.
Visual, like I think it'd be cool if they had
brightened it a little
some
bit
more. But there were some points where it was cool, like when he was not on the scaffolding, but like with that open window fighting the masked dude.
Yeah.
And that big ad behind him was flashing. That was cool.
That was like the neon colors and stuff.
But yeah, I like that scene. It's cool.
And it's kind of fun that like Awkwafina, the sister, and Shang all get captured.
Yeah.
And then they're at Winwoo's place.
Mm.
And it was very refreshing that he was just kind of like, so here's the deal. your mother is calling out to me. I'm going to go get her. I need your help. He's not really talking to the daughter that much. He's pretty much just like,
I know.
Shang-Chi, I need
he's
your
hardly
help.
acknowledging her.
Which is great.
Yeah, we don't like that.
No, I mean great
I
in the
know,
movie.
I know.
So he's doing that, and then the movie's like the three characters that are not him are just kind of like, okay, this is the situation. We have to figure out the situation. I don't know. There was it did feel familial, weirdly enough, like more than other scenes like this have felt.
Of him saying what needs to be done and then trying to figure it out.
Yeah, and their reactions to it and stuff. It felt like, I could juxtapose it with the Black Widow scene where they're all a family, and it's just kind of like, this is like a scene where you're supposed to like yuck it up. But this felt more real. I like the scene a lot more.
Well, yeah, it felt like, he captures them, but I don't feel like they're prisoners until they're literally thrown in a prison. Like it feels like he is including them in the conversation. Yeah. And that's he gets into the family stuff a little bit more because he asks Katie what her Chinese name is, and that's when he kind of goes off about how important that is to know.
Yeah.
Because like it means who you are as a person is that name, which becomes a huge theme of the movie. And then he starts talking a little bit more about, he's been around for so long, and like he's terrorized so many civilizations that at a point one of them needed to give a face to it or a name.
Yeah.
And they did the Mandarin. And I like that he like makes a point to point out like they were so scared of me they named me after chicken. Like an orange chicken. And
it's kind of like, I feel like that's also kind of a correction of like just the history of Marvel Comics with this character.
Yeah.
Kind of being like, these people didn't understand this culture at all and tried to make stuff up about it.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing that he's saying. I think especially, and he says those stuff as if he's not even offended. It's just like, that's their way to cope with it. Those small little people over there. Yeah. When the whole time I was still just having my empire and conquering and having power. Didn't affect me. And then even because, he's like basically, and at this point when he says the Mandarin, I did not remember Iron Man 3. But that, that's what he's referencing. And of course, at the end of that movie, bad guy doesn't win. Mm-hmm. And he does not seem to be affected by any of the thing that happened in that movie. Yeah. That we know of.
It was like a rogue, just them like, they basically, Guy Pearce, from the story of this movie, hijacked just that scary idea and used it for his purposes.
Yeah.
Which I think is cool because it doesn't, I don't feel like it undermines the stuff that I loved about Iron Man 3, because I love that whole reveal that Ben Kingsley is not the Mandarin. I think it's one of the best moments in the whole series.
Yeah.
I feel like now, because fans hated that. They got so upset. We talked about that in our Iron Man 3 episode. I feel like now people will revisit that movie and they won't feel that way anymore.
I know.
And it's like, well, we were ahead of the curve on that
way to go, Marvel, to just straight up put Ben Kingsley in this movie.
I know. So let's talk about Ben Kingsley.
So they're thrown in this prison, or they're locked away because
there's the cool water map and all that stuff.
That's very cool water part. But they're put in this like prison cell, and then they walk into the back of it, and there's Ben Kingsley that apparently, I swore that there was effects going on with him.
I don't think so. I really don't.
I just don't think he's that small of a person.
He's a very small man. He's a very small man.
Okay, well, I think maybe his wig made his head look really big.
His wig was so bad, and it was on purpose. I mean, it was supposed to look bad. It was hilarious. And he's, what I loved about this character in Iron Man 3 is like how much, I mean, that moment in Iron Man 3 where he finally gets into the compound and who we believe to be the Mandarin walks out and he says, "Woo!" Like, I would not go in there because he just like farted in the bathroom. It's like, what?
Yeah.
And he's keeping that energy in this movie.
Yeah.
And you know what's cool? I didn't realize this, but that is, Shane Black made up that character. That is not a comic book character. There's
Very
no
cool.
Trevor Slattery. It's all.
How did they get there for this movie to bring him back?
Well, I'm sure it was kind of easy because they were like.
No, but like just to think of it, like it's just that's so interesting.
And
so this is to remind me of how this goes though. He plays the Mandarin, And then it's found out that the Mandarin doesn't exist.
Uh-huh.
So he is just this actor now who committed a heinous crime.
Yeah.
And
Who just thought he had a great gig.
yeah, and was put in prison for it.
Yeah.
And so then Wan Wu broke him out. Why?
Well, they said something. I'd have to catch it again, but
Yeah.
they said something about how, like, I think they broke him out to kill him for impersonating him.
That's, yeah.
And then
yeah,
he
'cause it
he
was,
like quoted
offensive.
Hamlet or something, and they all
Macbeth. He started performing Macbeth. They couldn't get enough of it. So now he's like their jester.
which is like so stupid,
I
but
know.
I'm so okay with that
I love it.
explanation. And so he's their jester, but he has this friend, and Jordan, like, she perked up in her seat and kind of like, I think you even looked at me kind of like, wait, what? This little furry creature that has kind of like small dragon wings
No,
almost.
they're like bird wings.
Oh, they're like, yeah, you're right.
At
They're
first
like
I thought it
bird
was
wings.
moth-like, but it's definitely bird-like.
He jumps up on him, and he's a creature that has no face.
His name's Morris.
His name's Morris, and
He
can just
such
talk
a
to
funny
him.
joke though,
Oh, yeah.
where it ambles out and they're all like, "Ooh," and then Ben Kingsley's like, "You see him? You see him? He's right." Oh, I thought I was imagining it the whole time.
so then this creature is from the place
Talo.
where Talo, and so it can help them get there before Winwu gets there.
Yes.
So they go on this adventure with Ben Kingsley, and I had seen a picture from the premiere where Ben Kingsley was at the premiere
And
of
did
the
you just
movie.
think fun?
Well, everyone who was on the picture was like, is he in this movie? So it was like, oh yeah, that would make sense that he's in the movie. I had forgotten by the time he was in the movie, but when he showed up, I was not surprised.
Okay.
But he, they're going through, they're navigating this maze in the car. It's very funny.
Well, the very funny moment before they go, they're just sitting there. And you're thinking, why are they just sitting here? And that's when Ben Kingsley is telling him about when he wanted to become an actor.
Yeah.
And I know it's always just funnier to see it in the movie, but it's just great. It was just a great joke.
Oh, and you're not going to tell it.
Well, he saw it with his mom, and he said, "Mom, how did they get the monkeys to do
He's
that?"
not Planet of the Apes.
Planet of the Apes, sorry. And she says, "Oh no, they're actors. They're pretending."
No, she said, how did they? No.
He says, "How did they get the monkeys to do that?"
And she said, acting. And then he was like, I still to this day can't figure out how they got, like, how those monkeys acted so well.
Yeah, and then I think Sean's like, well, how could they get monkeys to ride horses? I don't know either. I still can't figure it out. It's just so good. They just really like sit with the comedy in some of it.
Yeah.
It's great.
It's great. And then kind of like mid conversation, he's like, oh, Morris says to go right now.
Yeah,
So-
I know.
Then they take off. They navigate. They eventually show up in Talo.
And the people are there. They know there's an intruder.
Now we have to pause everything because we see lions,
Yeah,
2 large lions.
but
And
not
they
just
have-
lions. They're like
the
fantasy.
Chinese like lion drawing,
Yeah,
but they're not drawings. These are real
yeah. They look
creatures.
so good. They come in gray. They come
look
in blonde. They got these awesome fangs.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, give me another.
Yeah.
Give me another.
You know what? I would actually put this as a very weird complaint on the movie. But
Too distracting.
I don't think there was quite enough creatures.
Okay.
Because it just felt like they almost like it needed like 20% more.
They had those crazy dragon zebra horse things.
They did. But it was like they drove through that area and then they drove through the area again and everything was kind of in the same spot and stuff. And it was like, no.
They had firebirds.
I know. But we needed like 10 more creatures.
Okay.
And I think then it would have felt like a complete like tapestry ecosystem. I needed to see some bugs. I needed to see a couple of things fly overhead, which we had a couple of those, but I needed a little more.
I gotta say, I disagree with you. I think it was the tip of the iceberg of this ecosystem that we will never be able to understand because it's that magical. And there's a water dragon, and then not only that, they have creepy crawly bad monsters stored in a cave.
Yeah. Well, like I said,
They got quite the diverse ecosystem here.
it's a weird complaint.
Yeah.
But my complaint is I want more.
That's what you should feel, though.
I know.
So
But what I wanted, like, it gets close, but I wanted like you pull up to the Mos Eisley Cantina in Star Wars, and you go, and the camera pans, and you see, every single seat is a different creature, and you're like, what is this movie? The first time you see it, you're just seeing like 50 aliens in 3 shots.
Back to Star Wars, doesn't it?
Well, I'm just saying we needed a little bit more.
Anyway,
But hey, I'm sure they're gonna make a second one, and maybe it'll be like Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Crazy Creatures, and
just make a Disney Plus show about it. But it is a Planet Earth.
no, it needs to be a
Documentary.
movie. I need to see that on the big screen, baby.
No, it's a Planet Earth special release in theaters, narrated by David Attenborough. So this is when we are introduced
We're having
to
fun, guys.
Margaret Yo.
Michelle Yeoh, yeah.
Michelle Yeoh. Jeez.
Margaret.
I don't know. So, so the villagers don't want them in. They're bracing themselves to attack. Michelle Yeoh comes, stops them. Like,
Yeah.
have you forgotten your own people, kind of thing.
Maybe I do like this more than Black Panther.
She is their aunt. So,
And she's in Guardians of the Galaxy too, which is strange.
as a different character.
But I can always use more Michelle Yeoh, so I'm not going to complain about that.
Yeah.
She's so good.
She's great. So she welcomes them into the village, and it's just this crazy thing where it's like, we have an aunt. Holy crap. Tell us about our mom.
Yeah.
Because we've missed her for 10 plus years. So she is explaining just a lot of this culture that they were never part of. I know that is a big just cursory thing.
Yeah, we're not going to break down everything.
But I guess there is that monologue where she is taking them through that, like, relief, the mural thing.
Yeah, talking about the creature.
The monsters have come out. This dragon steals them away. The dragon that's their great protector.
And that's when I put my hands up and I said, come to Papa.
Yeah.
Miki needs more.
Very cool. And so she says from time to time, this voice calls people here.
Yeah.
And it's not who they think it is. It is they're being tempted to release this monster.
Yeah.
That is the Eater of Souls. Yeah, I want to see the Eater of Souls. Okay. So,
And it's like it's like carved wood.
yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah, it looked really nice.
And I think it's cool too. They get to a point where a little bit specific things about this village. It seems, like everyone's a warrior to some degree. Everyone is trained equally.
Yeah.
Which is a big thing for the sister because she was excluded from that. And then all of their weapons and armor are made of dragon scales.
Yeah, cool.
Very cool. And then this is just, I just love that they did this. So you have this character, Katie, who's been around for the whole ride. And she is not crazy at anything. And they let her be a warrior.
Uh-huh.
I just love it.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, like, this is like what they can't do with Kat Dennings and Thor.
Yeah.
Partly the issue, in my opinion, is Kat Dennings.
Well, I think like what Awkwafina is doing in this movie, I don't want to understate how good her performance is, because this performance, being the wisecrack person and being like sometimes kind of annoying and stuff, it's like you're on a needle.
Mm-hmm.
And if you tip to one side, it sucks.
Yeah.
And I think it helps that she has some really fun and empowering things to do toward the end of the movie.
Well, she has her own thing because her and Sean together at the beginning of this movie are aimless. They're just looking for a good time.
Yeah.
And she gets to this point in the movie, and this woman takes her to the archery area and says, "You aim at nothing. You hit nothing if you aim at nothing."
Yeah.
And I loved that. So it's
Me
like,
too.
cool. She's getting a purpose. Because if
Yeah.
she's just doing her whole funny thing where she's like, yeah, I'm like, when I get into something, I really get into it. And once I get even a little bit good at it, I go to the next thing. I just am so aimless. It's so cool that you guys all have your own specific thing.
Uh-huh.
And this woman doesn't say a word that whole time, takes her to this place, gives her a bow and arrow, and says that thing.
Yeah.
Leaves.
And
Beautiful.
I just feel like that's great. And circle back to the Kat Dennings thing is,
I guess there's no character development for her.
there probably is a little bit, but it's just like when she's on screen, she's just to tell some joke about like a hunky character.
I am fairly confident that they didn't spend enough time to give her character development.
I was so bummed when she showed up in WandaVision.
Yeah.
But who knows? Who knows what
She was better in that than in the Thor movies.
She was better.
But I think it's because they gave us more time with her.
Yeah.
Which is what I don't want. But at least they did something. Yeah.
So then Tony shows up. That's the actor name, Winwoo. But he shows up. And they've kind of trained a little bit, but not, they haven't had much time. They've had like 2 days or whatever. And he's like, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to go over there and I'm going to take care of my wife.
Oh, well.
Are you really going to join these traitors?
It is important to note that before that, Shang-Chi had a moment with his aunt where she trained him a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And how his mother was trained and how the people here are trained. And she
can kind of control the elements a little bit once he gets a hold of that.
And she says something really great about just family in general and how like you do carry whatever your ancestors have done with you. Mm-hmm. But it also, I can't remember exactly what she says, but it's just a really beautiful thing of like, you do carry these things with you, but you have to let them go. Or you have to like, you have to confront them. You have to face them, not run from them, which is just what he's done. And then there is that flashback of him. I think he's like a kid again. And you find out that when his dad did send him on that hit, it was to kill the guy who killed his mom. That's when we find out how his mom died.
Yes.
His mom died because all of these guys who were wronged by their dad were getting him back. And she was the only one there, and she did not have the power of her great protector, so she was just beaten to death.
And so what's great about this is this inspires Winwoo because she said if I got rid of the rings, I could live a normal life. But because I got rid of them, I wasn't able to protect her, so I put them back on.
Yeah.
Love that. And then it inspires Shang-Chi in a different way.
Yeah, it's great. So when his mom is killed, his dad comes back after it all happens.
Love that they cut away. They don't show us the kill. They just show how Shang is processing it as it's happening.
Yeah. And so the dad sees this. He's going to take his revenge. You pay blood with blood. So he takes Shang-Chi to wherever these guys are that killed his wife so that his son can identify the people.
Yeah.
But then it's like his son sees it. His dad murder people.
Yeah.
And that's when his dad says you have to play blood with blood. And then we're cut back to the present when he is processing all of this. And Katie's trying to like, what's going on? And he says, I'm going to kill my dad tomorrow. I got to play blood with blood. And it's like, oh, I know you're going through this really traumatic journey right now, but you know that's not the answer, right? And he'll figure it out in about 10 to 15 minutes. But it's just so good.
It is. And then we have like the long action sequence of the end. And I was not bored at all.
Me neither. Not for a second. And I thought I would be.
That is truly rare for like mainstream blockbuster movies for me not to, even if I like it, kind of check out a little bit.
Yep.
And just be like, okay, I like the rest of this movie. I wish this scene was shorter. Even Black Panther, as great as that movie is, I mean the last like fighting sequence is a little like, all right, let's wrap it up now.
Yeah, I think it's hard to do the big battle scenes. I think an easy thing to do it, maybe if you're inexperienced at writing it, or you just don't really know where to start, is give characters something specific to do.
Yeah.
Because one of the best ones I can think of is Guardians 2, when they're fighting the dad, and like while that's all going on, Rocket and Groot are trying to put a bomb in an asteroid.
Yeah.
So like there's a lot of like, it's a really good pacing, and you as a viewer know like, okay, this needs to happen.
Well, that's like the beauty of James Gunn.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this with the Suicide Squad as well, where he'll do these things that are so big, so huge, but then it's like the camera zooms in and he goes, but what is Polka Dot Man doing right now?
Yeah.
And it's not just like, oh, I just need to show him because we have to like show him because we haven't shown him in a while. It's like, no, he has a really specific purpose right now.
Yeah.
And then it's like, what is Gamora doing in this scene? Let's really focus on that. And so you actually are invested in the fight.
Yeah.
And they do that in this movie, plus the action is the best action we've seen in the series. So it's just even more interesting to watch.
Yeah, I think it's great. And there are dragons in it. Have I said that yet?
Yeah, seeing Simu and Tony fighting each other is awesome.
Yeah, it's great. But it doesn't feel drawn out.
And when he like is able to turn the rings to his side,
Yeah, so cool.
that was a great moment.
Music moment's great there.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, but the dad,
But there's a water dragon. We have to talk about
water dragon, it reminded me a lot of Haku in Spirited Away.
Yeah, it does.
Just, I think it's because the dragon is white and the hair, some of it's like white and it's got some blue on it.
It looked cool. I mean,
Very cool. And the animation was incredible.
The animation was incredible, and then there was like a shot at the end where they get off of it. And I know that it was CG. I know, but it did look like it was like maybe this is a practical like head that they built. Maybe. God. It looked really. It kind of like reminded me of the tactile nature of like the Never-Ending Story. Like just how you feel like you can touch that.
Yeah.
And this felt like that, and it was thrilling.
Yeah,
you know,
it was so good.
I mean, we're seeing a Marvel character ride a dragon, and if these movies have been for anything,
it's to get to this point where a character can ride a freaking dragon.
And when he was riding the dragon, I just thought, I cannot wait for Avengers 18 or whatever, when they're having another Endgame type battle, and it's like, on your left, huge dragon comes out, and Shang-Chi's riding a dragon, and he's just eating all of, Thanos 2's villains or something like that. Oh, man.
It's happening. You know it is.
Another thing I want to point out on this movie, as we're getting closer to the end here, but I know we have a lot to wrap up. A lot of times these movies, for me, and I think for a lot of people, you go into them and it's almost like the promise of what could be is more exciting than what you actually get. Mm-hmm. So you're sitting there and it's like, oh, cool, Abomination's in this from Incredible Hulk. That's fun. This character's in this. And by the time you finish it, you're like, oh, that's cool. They set it up. So now in this movie, you're already excited about the next movie. You've forgotten that you even saw the movie in a way. I'm being facetious, of course. And what I liked about this movie is, of course, I'm excited about the future, particularly with these characters. But I was like, you know what? I just liked that movie.
Yeah.
And that's why this movie feels a lot more rewatchable to me than the others. And, and again, I bring up Black Panther and the Guardians movies because it just feels like you could actually just watch those and enjoy them front to back instead of like, but it's setting up the greater universe and you have to like make this character do this so that in the next movie this happens. And And a lot of that is fun. I like that about the world that they've made. But it was just nice that throughout the movie, I was actually like present with the movie instead of, even with Black Widow, it's like, okay, Florence Pugh's cool. Like, yeah, she's going to be a good like Black Widow in the future. I hope they really, I'm having these conversations in my head. And in this movie, I was just kind of like, I just like this.
I know, me too. It's great. I think this just starts with such a great story. Like this has such a good foundation.
Totally.
And then up from there, everything's just really good. I did remember one thing though. It's funny that so he's given like basically his outfit, which is like the dragon scale outfit. He's wearing tennis shoes.
I think that I'm not sure, but I think Shang-Chi does wear tennis shoes. I think.
If that's true, then cool.
I kind of dug it though. I thought it was cool.
It just is funny because it's like, don't you think they'd give him some like warrior footwear?
Yeah, maybe.
But maybe it's just a funny thing that I noticed.
Cutaway where he's like, I can only do it with my Air Jordans.
Oh, yeah, they had to cut that part, but it'll be in the DVD release.
Yeah.
Yeah. So while he's fighting his dad and while he's in the water before the water dragon, he recalls, I think, the moment with his aunt, but also his mother, and understanding that he needs to bridge both of his parents.
Yeah.
To become who he is.
Yeah.
And that's when he has that really great fight with his dad and he gains the rings, pretty much.
Yeah.
That's just so interesting. I wonder if it's like, does he become worthy of it? Like the rings like choose. I know the rings don't choose anybody. I know that.
Yeah.
But it almost feels like through their fighting style, it is just like the rings are drawn to that.
Yeah.
Like virtuous.
I like that. Yeah.
Moment or something. I don't know. It's just really great. But the big bad dragon gets out.
Yeah.
Everyone's working together at this point.
And a big bad dragon looks cool too.
It does look cool. He eats souls, people.
Yeah.
That's scary. That is like scarier than just someone killing people, honestly.
Yeah.
It is like it's damning people. That's scary.
And I think as far as stakes go in the movie, something like that happens and you're like, okay, of course. But when it took the guy who trained Aquafina with the boat, it took his soul. I actually thought to myself, I'm like, ooh, I hope when they kill it, the souls all come out of it and go back.
I thought so too.
And that's good. That's good that in this series where like it feels like so many, if you're not a hero, you're expendable a lot of times.
Yeah.
It was nice that I actually like cared about that. And then when it happened, I think it is a good decision that it didn't just go back to normal, but it's like, I'm bummed about that.
Yeah, I mean,
and
it makes sense too. Like it eats souls so that it can become more powerful. So it's just burning through them. And then what's also just so refreshing is these dragons, they're bigger than Shang-Chi. Like their destiny to fight is like because this is set in a different dimension, this village.
Well, I think
like they say it's a different dimension. They say another dimension.
Okay. Okay, put the gun down.
Okay. But it's just like this is like this world's big moment.
Yeah.
And it's between these two dragons. Of course, all the little people can do something to help and make big changes. But at the end of the day, that bad dragon was sucking out the soul of the water dragon. And I was like, crap, this is not good.
I know. And that was another thing where I was like, don't let this dragon die.
I know.
You can't. And then Aquafina lets off an arrow and it rings true and cuts through the throat of the dragon.
Much better than the Hobbit movie.
Are we joking? Yeah. I mean, that's...
But I felt truly triumphant when that happened. It was like, oh, that's so cool.
And then how do they actually defeat the creature, though? I can't recall.
Well, I think that's when the dragons duke it out. And they fight.
Oh, yeah. That just gave the dragon the edge to kill it.
Yeah. Which is just so cool.
Yeah. And then that's it. Right?
Yeah. I mean, good guys win. Wanwu dies because his soul is taken.
But he sees the error of his ways and he gives this look to
We gives him the rings too.
Yeah, and he sacrifices himself to buy more time.
Mm-hmm.
So he has that redemption. And I mean, I think it's pretty clear that he is like at least top 5 of the Marvel villains. Easy.
Yeah. The emotional weight is huge. And
I feel like we kind of skimmed over him a little bit
know.
because we talked about everything in such detail. But I mean, I can't stress enough how much I liked him. And I think it's good that he died. It makes sense. But it was also like, dang, I could use a movie more with this guy. He was great.
And I also, it's worth mentioning too, is Shang-Chi fights alongside his sister. And that is a very beautiful thing based on all that they've been through. And the moment where she is telling him to let her go.
Yeah.
And for like that, it was just so good because he doesn't want to let her go because he's already done it once. And he's guilty about that. But she is telling him to do it. And it's just so beautiful. And I like that, it feels like she even gets her moment.
Yeah.
But of course it is really about Shang-Chi.
Mm-hmm. It's really good.
Yeah.
And then it ends with them back in San Francisco talking to their friends that we met earlier, and they're telling them all about their adventure, exactly what happened. And they're like, okay, we're sorry we offended you. Like, please
stop joking.
Stop making fun of us. And then a big old circle comes out. And Wong comes out and he goes, hey guys, come over here. I need your help. Yeah. And everyone's just dumbfounded in the bar. Great.
Yeah,
Loved all that.
And Sean's like, I'll Venmo you guys for the drinks. Sorry.
Yeah. And then there's a Hotel California drop when they go to karaoke with Wong. Hilarious. Mm-hmm. Hits real hard. Mm-hmm. The movie's over. And then Anderson .Paak soundtrack song comes on.
I know. What a fun surprise.
No way. They got .Paak in the universe?
I know.
So I think it's great.
Yeah.
I really loved it.
Me too.
It made me... What's funny is I know if you listen to our episode, I was pretty defensive of Black Widow. And I like it. I don't really imagine me really watching it again. Unless it's like we're showing our kids someday, like the series. But the more I've thought about that, the more it's like, I hope this isn't really what the universe is doing.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day too.
And then this.
Oh, sorry.
Let me. But and then. Oh, did our lights go out? What just happened?
Your computer went to a screensaver.
And that I freaked out about it?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to leave all that in. But this movie is like, this is what I want the universe to start doing.
Me too. I think
For phase 4.
On the whole, I just am not interested in movies like Black Widow.
Yeah.
The kind of, I'm just not as interested in that kind of intrigue in Russian spies. Just not my kind of movie.
Yeah.
This, did I say there was a dragon in it?
Yeah.
My kind of movie.
Yeah. This has more in common with Aquaman than it does with a lot of Marvel movies, which is another movie we loved because of the imagination.
Let's just get James Wan up in here.
By the way, I mean, thank you again. I'm talking about Dominic a lot in this episode, but he sent the James Wan took a picture with Patrick Wilson.
I saw that picture.
And
yeah.
Patrick Wilson is looking ripped, but also like so disheveled.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I was hoping Orm would be in Aquaman too, but now I know, and let's go.
Yeah.
You're telling me we're getting disheveled Orm, Ocean Master?
I know.
Okay.
Gimme.
gimme. So that's it. Next week, it's back to the regularly scheduled. We're finishing up The Godfather. Godfather Part 3. It's kind of hilarious that this episode is as long as an episode on Godfather. But hey, I guess that's how it shook out. Then we'll be doing another series, and you can look forward to our continued coverage of Marvel in December when Spider-Man No Way Home comes out.
When does Eternals come out?
Oh, wait, Eternals is next. I forgot. That's in November.
Cool.
So actually, yes, you can look forward to Eternals in November.
A movie that looks so good, I'm nervous.
It looks good, and I'm not nervous.
Yeah.
If that helps.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Please rate the show and review the show as well on iTunes. And then go to patreon.com/MicahMcCaw, MICAHMCCAW, and listen to us this month on Patreon talking about Kill Bill Volume 1 with my sister. Good episode. And, there's also a lot of music stuff on there for me. So, sign up for the 3, sign up for the 5, sign up for the 10. And, you don't have to pay the limit. You could go, I'm going to sign up for $50 a month. You could do whatever you want. I'm not going to. But go over there. Okay?
Yeah, just check it out. Do yourself a favor and check it out.
All right. Thanks for listening.
Bye.